Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Elephant Exposed. I am your host, CJ Jones, and today I won't be having my co-host with me, um, but we still have to address these elephants in the room regardless. So let's just get right to it. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This whole entire week has been such a pull on my emotions and everything. It's been very, very difficult for me to go from processing one massacre to the massacre of students and two teachers, and the lack of action on the behalf of the Uvalde Police Department. Um, I'm I'm almost at a loss for words in some regard, and then because of the type of show that I have, and I want for all viewers uh to be able to hang in there with me, I am keeping my language filtered just for that. So let's just go ahead, just jump right into it. I want to say before I start these videos, these slides, different things like that, these slides are not mine. They are very researchable on Google and everything. And of course, the commentation that you hear and see are coming from various news sources and other platforms. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the update on the Uvalde as it was 3 days ago, and then we'll pick up from there. So here we go.
All right, we have a lot of new details coming from the Texas Department of Public Safety. In fact, they shared this map with us today, and I want to begin right here because this is a crucial thing that we're going to loop back to later on. DPS says the shooter began right here on campus and started firing shots into the building here, possibly through the windows on this side of a school building. The school resource officer, they say, was not on campus at the time, but arrived really quickly, but drove right past the shooter out here who was crouched down. Then, a very important point here, DPS says the shooter was able to walk around the building and then straight in through this back door, which minutes earlier had been propped open by a teacher. From there, they say he went straight into these adjoining classrooms, number 111 and 112, and began a hellish rampage with his assault-style rifle and enough ammunition for a small militia.
Hundreds of rounds were pumped in 4 minutes, okay, into those two classrooms.
Inside those classrooms, the shooter had locked the doors behind him. In this hallway, police were staging, but they couldn't get through those doors because they didn't have equipment to breach them. And besides, the school district police chief, DPS says, was in charge of all of this and decided to go ahead and wait here in the hallway because he no longer thought that this was an active shooter situation.
The incident commander at the time it's believed, was a barricaded subject that we had time. There was no kids at risk.
That despite the fact that students were still calling 911 from inside
Did
this
you
school
not hear
building.
your own? Did
DPS
you
says
not hear? Was it just me? Well, number one, did you not see the defensiveness that the police chief had? This is about accountability, bro. You are outside looking in because you're overall accountable, responsible for the police officers, their actions and their lack of actions. So for you to even have your voice raised, I'm trying to find it. Let me bump back to it if I can. I think this is right here. Okay. Notice his voice is raised, his chest is up and everything. He's sounding really defensive in this. I just want to see if I was the only one that caught that.
for a small militia.
Hundreds of rounds were pumped in 4 minutes, okay, into those two classrooms.
Oh, okay. Hundreds of rounds was pumped into that room. Okay. Really, bro? Relax. Relax. because right there is setting the stage for one, somebody's going to meet that, whether it's reporter, parent, or whatever. Bro, you are in no position to sit up here and try to start or posture yourself like you are the one with the attitude. The reason why police officers become police officers is because we are all paid to stand in harm's way so that other people can feel safe. That is civilian and military. I'm speaking from a military experience and line of training. Well, actually, I am speaking from both because I was actually certified as a civilian before I actually went into the military, is where most of my experiences come from. But either way, the training doesn't really change. Only your police department change. But when it comes to an active shooter, you go in. And yes, I know everybody that is watching, this is not going to sound good. So if you are faint of heart, I apologize now for stepping on your sensitive toes and squeezing your bleeding heart. But yes, you bypass all victims. It does not matter. Male, female, children, infirmed, someone grabbing at your pants leg, whatever, you bypass them. But and so since I have the time to break it down, this is the reason why we have to, as police officers and responders, whether it's special weapons and tactics or just trained police officers, period, we got to get rid of that threat. Yes. So again, this is called Elephant Exposed. I'm gonna say what it is. We have to go kill the shooter. Point blank. You have to. There is no, well, wait a minute, let me get stacked up and everything. For a true barricaded suspect, yes, you have time to sit out and think about tactical ways. For someone that might be in that kind of situation. But later on in the video, guys, he tried to talk over it real fast, but we're able to stop the video and wind it back. The commander of the team, okay, he's called the on-scene commander, okay? He's just the guy that calls the shots right there on the scene. More than likely, he's your most experienced. He's senior to everybody. And so they just can't, by authority purposes or ranking structure, you just can't go willy-nilly in it and kicking down the door and everything. You have to get your orders. And so if you don't understand that part, it comes from the commanding officer. He was trying, I mean, the commanding officer, listen to me, that's the Navy. It was coming from the on-scene commander, But in his frustration, if you watch this whole entire interview, because this is highlighted, so we're not gonna ping on that. This chief of police, he will actually say, at the end of the day, the decision to hold off in the hallway was the wrong decision to make. Because like how one of the survivors said in one of those rooms, it was the longest 35 minutes that they had ever had to wait in their life. Because the first 911 call made was at about 12:03. Well, he was already shooting first of all, he was already shooting once he had left the truck that he had wrecked. Because right about that time, that's the reason why the door was propped, because the teacher allegedly was basically alluding to she had seen the crash or heard the crash of a vehicle. That was the initial 911 call, was for a vehicle being crashed, but then left the door open. So whenever we go through that timeline, you'll see how all this stuff plays out. Let me go ahead and keep it pumped because I got very, very little time.
Classrooms.
Inside those classrooms, the shooter had locked the doors behind him. In this hallway, police were staging, but they couldn't get through those doors because they didn't have equipment to breach them. And besides, the school district police chief, DPS, said...
Okay, let me stop right there. I'm gonna call BS. Whenever you're desperate for something, you'll find a way. Okay, whether you have to go, now, I'm not saying that all police cars are completely equipped with all your Batman tools, is what I call them, per se, but that is a weak excuse. Inside those doors, inside that car, you have at least a 12-gauge shotgun, and they all have what we call double-aught buck or slugs. That's exactly what that particular ammunition was designed to do, to blow off locks. So for them to say that they were just waiting on breaching equipment, no, that's just an excuse. I mean, it's an excuse, but that's all it is. Okay, you gotta slow these things down to really put things in context. Okay, children are dying. That joker is still shooting. Even in the 911 calls, you can hear this. You can hear gunfire. That's what was being said. Even as these 911 calls was being made, you could still hear shooting. That means he is still active. The dude just messed up, period. He's accountable, and he should be accountable. And for the families of Uvalde, they should be taking action as such, period, point blank. I'm gonna keep it moving. I got very, very little time.
Was in charge of all of this and decided to go ahead and wait here in the hallway because he no longer thought that this was an active shooter situation.
The incident commander at the time it's believed was a barricaded subject, that we had time. There was no kids at risk.
That despite the fact that students were still calling 911 from inside this school building. DPS says at 12:03 p.m., 30 minutes after the shooting began, a little girl called from room 112 and whispered that she was in that room. 7 minutes later, she called back.
Advised there multiple are dead. 12:13, again, she called on the phone. Again at 12:16, she called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive.
3 minutes after that, another call for help, this time coming from room 111.
She hung up when another student told her to hang up.
More gunshots, according to investigators. And
More
then an additional
gunshots.
20.
Do you hear that? More gunshots. But the on-scene commander, around about that time, at about 12:15, it's estimated about 12:15, 19 police officers are stacked up outside these classrooms. It's a joint classroom. Okay, this is where the BS starts, because the on-scene commander is trying to lie and hide his way through being held accountable for him making the wrong call that cost lives, more lives than what could have been if they would have kicked the door in, blown the door down, whatever the case may be. Get in that door, engage the shooter, and kill the shooter. Now, yes, from a tactical point of view, guys, I know what people are saying. Well, what about the police officers? What about the police? Or what about their lives? That's why they signed on. That's why I signed on. Whenever I was on a tactical team in my unit as a military police officer, we learned how to respond to active shooters. I'm the short, quick guy on my team. Guess what position I was? It was called the number 1 position, or point man. I would be the first one to get shot if someone was to get shot in my stack. But the thing about it is that I would be able to take those shots for the rest of my team behind me to come in and handle business. That's the name of the game, guys, period. Okay, this on-scene commander just flat out made the wrong decision and caused more lives to be not with us today. Let me keep it going.
4 long minutes elapsed before another call came in from room 112.
At approximately 12:43 and 12:47, she asked 911 to please send the police now.
DPS says not long after that, now an hour and 17 minutes after the shooting inside began, they were able to get a key from the school to make entry into these 2 classrooms and shoot the gunman to death. By then, of course, though, teachers and students inside had already been killed. Back to that crucial point that we began with up here when the shooter first arrived at the school. Some people are now asking DPS why police officers didn't try to shoot the suspect through the windows of these classrooms when they were locked out from those doors. Right now, DPS does not have an answer for that.
That sounds like a good idea.
Questions that this investigation is now focused on.
Exactly. And so that's where you get, the investigation. That's where the investigation comes from, guys, because there are other reports that where there were other officers that was working with other students, getting them to escape, leave through window doors or whatever. I don't have that particular highlighted video for you guys, but this is what we're talking about. This was just a flat out, in the military, for those of us who are familiar with this term, this was totally and completely FUBAR by the on-scene commander. Response time, technically, Ted Cruz was right. The response time was great. Yeah, boom. They got there within 4 minutes. But you being on scene does not count, Ted Cruz. Just because you there, it just means you was present. But what did you do? You didn't do nothing, so you might as well been gone. You might as well would not have responded until 12:50. That's the issue. And then get off on this whole political thing of, oh, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And then you trying to politicize this mess. That's going to be on part 2. I have ran out of time for right now. Guys, there's plenty more that I got coming this way about this. Hang in there with me. I do have a lot more to share and say about this particular travesty. So y'all bear with me. I thank y'all for hanging in there with me so far. And just stand by. Just stand by with me, because we are far from done talking about what had happened in Uvalde. So let me go ahead and wrap this up. I see you on the other side. Thank you so much.